The family was happily taking a group photo, but behind the photographer sat an adopted black boy. Despite her husband's objections, the mother insisted on having the boy come over and join them. Mike was a bit surprised and awkwardly stood behind Mrs. Tui. The moment the photographer pressed the shutter, this burly black teenager felt the warmth of family for the first time. Mike was only 16 years old, but nearly 7 feet tall. He weighed a whopping 330 pounds. One of his feet was bigger than a girl's head. He had been a loner since childhood, because his mother was a drug addict. Having never met his father, he had been wandering around his whole life. For years he was like a football, tossed around by more than a dozen foster families. In reality, these foster parents were just trying to scam government subsidies. Mike had long gotten used to being homeless. When he was hungry, he'd pick up leftover popcorn that others had thrown away. When he was tired, he'd sleep in the school gymnasium. It wasn't until Mrs. Tui came along that his fate completely changed. The man rolled down his car window and asked where he was going. Mike was shivering from the cold and said he was heading to the gym. But Mrs. Tui noticed he was walking in the opposite direction, and her heart went out to him. The plastic bag Mike carried contained all his belongings. So Mrs. Tui caught up with him and asked why he had lied. Mike looked like a child who had done something wrong, and Mrs. Tui saw right through his humble stubbornness. She turned back to look at her husband and son, and knew what she had to do.
Come on. Where we going? Oh.
Since the guest room was full of clutter, Mrs. Tui had Mike make do on the couch for the night, telling him he could come upstairs if he needed anything. But once she got back to her room, she started having second thoughts. He's a black kid from the projects. What if something happens? It wasn't until the next morning when she nervously walked downstairs that she discovered Mike had not only left early, but had also neatly folded the couch cushions and bedding. The sight left her stunned. Feeling ashamed of her suspicions, she chased after him and convinced Mike to stay another day.
Where are you going?
I don't know.
Well, are you spending Thanksgiving with your family?
She prepared a big spread of food, and her daughter even handed Mike a plate. But he was afraid of being judged for eating too much, so he served himself just a little fried rice and vegetables, then quietly took a small piece of bread. When everyone was comfortably lounging on the couch, watching the game and eating, Mrs. Tui suddenly noticed that only Mike was sitting at the dining table, earnestly eating his Thanksgiving lunch. So she turned off the TV and had the family come to the table for grace. Her daughter reached out her hand without hesitation, and her son quickly gestured to Mike. In that moment, he froze, because this was the first time anyone had voluntarily reached for his hand. Mrs. Tui was very pleased with this, because it was Mike who made this Thanksgiving truly meaningful. She looked Mike up and down, feeling like something was still missing.